All right, we're back, and Peter's here, and we're talking about, well, about how the world's going to change, really, um, because these language models and oh yeah, that's what I was harping on. Um, so these things are coming out, and people are worried that they're going to be out of work, but then you have to also think that because this is based on on the basic design of a neuron. That's what we have. That's our leverage as humans. We have lots of neurons that can be trained to do complex things, like even creative things like poetry and art and all this. And now we've got a machine that can just do that and not get a headache and just keep going for like 24 hours and at 500 times the speed, or I don't know how fast. So all of the advantages that we have since the beginning of time, since the beginning of the human race, we're not going to have that soon. It's not going to be an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we're the dominant species on the planet, right? At the time, right? Like, we're able to multiply so much because we're able to conquer things through our knowledge, our intelligence, through use of tools and working together. And if we actually creating something that's more intelligent than us, so that's kind of like, well,
Yeah,
that's not a
even
good position to be in if it's not aligned with what we need, right?
oh yeah, that's another thing. Well, let me just talk about that alignment thing. Or sorry, about the neuron thing.
Yeah.
So the two things that they have, that computers have before neural net comes out, of course, is they can be trained like we can be trained. So if I practice for, you know, 5 hours a day on some sport, let's say soccer or whatever it is, I can get better and better at soccer. But that's only me. Whereas these machines, as soon as one machine,
Yeah.
you get a group of the best chefs and you train an AI system on making the best souffle,
Mm.
well, then all the AIs could potentially make the best souffle.
Yeah.
So you'll have an all AIs capable of speaking. Well, they already can speak every language.
Yeah.
They speak every language. They are the expert in everything. They pretty much have the equivalent degree in everything, doctorate in everything. They're an engineer, they're an artist, they're a poet, they're a mathematician, they're a chemist. So, and they're the best at it. They're way better than we could ever be.
Yeah.
And then you've got the cross pollination between the disciplines.
Yeah.
Like the engineer's gonna,
To help them discover so much more, right? Because it's a
yeah,
convergence of those ideas and the science behind it too. And what's going to be really interesting, I mean, I think the best description of it is almost like a duplicator for intelligence that's scalable and even more better, right? So you imagine if you could just like make a copy of a human, an adult human that's already gone through all the education system and the work experience, and you just made a copy of them and you keep on making copies, like that's going to change the economy so much. And that's what's happening right now with these AIs. And there's infinite amount that you could achieve by just adding more compute clusters, right?
sorry, I just can't. I just, it's kind of like that's what Ray coined with the singularities. You
Yeah,
can't see past this.
yeah. And they're going to start turning every single, the Ray's prediction is that every matter and energy is going to get converted into this, minimum amount of computable machine called the computronium. So,
Computronium. I have
computronium,
another term
yeah.
for computronium.
Mm.
Supercomputers the size of dust.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's probably an
Nanobots.
understatement, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Like even smaller than dust, right? So if you think
Yeah.
about it at the very particle level, could be molecular level, but so maybe that's where they talk about where is all the intelligence? Was the Fermi paradox? Maybe like intelligence is in the very fabric of matter and
Oh,
energy
good
are
segue.
there.
Yes, because you mentioned earlier
Mm,
about consciousness and all this. So I mean, there's a huge debate about what is consciousness. Rah
mm,
rah rah rah.
mm.
I mean, I like the theory that consciousness is like an emergent
Yeah.
property.
Mm. Complexity. Yeah.
So it's like um, it's like the TV screen I'm looking at.
Mm,
It looks like it's got all these colors, but when you look right at if you go zoom in, it's
mm.
red, green, and blue
Yeah.
pixels.
It's just chemistry in our
Yeah,
brains.
it's red,
Yeah.
green, and blue pixels.
Yeah.
And as you zoom out,
Mm,
the colors are an emergent property.
yeah.
It's not making the colors; just happens when you zoom out enough.
That's right. And it's all an illusion. We trick ourselves with this subjective experience because that's how we evolved to be able to, go from one memory to the next and make those predictions, kind of like the generative memory
Yeah,
train
it's the next
transformers,
word.
right? It's human GPT. We're all just large language models.
Well, you kind of see it in a little baby. It's
Yeah.
flailing its arms around because
Yeah.
it has no idea what nerves are connected to what muscles, and
Yeah.
then eventually it figures that out, and then it
Yeah.
figures
Yeah.
out language, and it figures out how to
Mm.
stand, and just
And in the
it's
DNA itself, this is what I was talking about, some of the basics that might be still missing in LLMs, which is, these symbolic components. Because babies know straight away when they're born to be able to breathe, to be able to cry, to be
yes,
able to, essentially like feed, right? All those sort of basic
instincts.
primal instincts. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the human
Mm.
genome is only 100 megabytes. How on earth?
What?
100 megabytes.
Really?
It's
Oh, not a full
tiny.
sequence genome, but just the genome itself. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
actually, I don't know. The one that was first publicized,
Mm,
that they sequenced
mm.
all the 23 chromosomes, and I
Yeah.
thought 100.
Storing genetic data is like huge. Like we're talking terabytes each, right? So it's gonna like,
Yeah, maybe I didn't hear it properly. Maybe
but I
it's
mean, it's just
100
arrangement
gigabytes.
of letters at the end of the day, right? So the
Yes,
4 letters. So you're right. It
Gattaca.
probably wouldn't be that big if you're talking about just one sequence.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, so that's probably the only thing that's missing. But also interestingly, they're developing these, biological neural nets in petri dishes. So they actually got this artificial, I guess, brain to play Pong. Like just brain in a dish playing Pong. Like
Oh
they've
my
already done it to
gosh.
the monkey, poor monkey, but he
Yeah, I
actually
saw.
enjoys it because he got a banana smoothie. But this brain is just in a dish thinking his whole existence is to play Pong. It's
That's I
yeah.
I don't even know how to think about that. My gosh. But
But they'll converge as well eventually. So the biological neural nets develop in a dish, that architecture will get combined and, essentially that architecture will get digitized into these, the 5 minute per research paper onslaught that we're seeing, be multimodal and additionally with symbolic components.
and this is 5 minutes. These are 5 minutes. One paper every 5 minutes
Mm.
from human researchers.
Yeah, yeah.
We haven't even gotten to the bit where the AIs are writing their own research
Well,
papers.
they probably would do a better job than most of them anyway, right?
Yeah,
Because like it'll be a
we
lot more
could be talking
coherent, better references.
like, can you imagine hundreds of research papers a second?
Yeah,
Is that where we're headed? I don't know.
yeah. I
My
mean, you can
gosh.
write 20,000 words now with GPT-4, right? So the API. So I think I saw Reid Hoffman on Twitter. He just wrote a book about emergence of tech of intelligence, like completely written by GPT-4. He just reviewed a couple of things and then published it. It's like, oh, sweet. So if you want to do get a book out there and do a roadshow.
Well, oh, and this
Hmm,
brings us to the other question. So,
hmm,
alignment.
yeah.
So, I have a hunch that they just don't, they like, I think that humans are, this is just my own take, by the way, my own personal
Hmm,
thoughts on it. So, it's worth nothing. But my thoughts are that, given the size of the universe, given the size of the Earth and the Moon and the nearby planets, and given how little humanity actually uses
Mm.
of the overall baryonic matter,
Mm.
and given the fact that they don't necessarily need atmosphere,
Mm.
why would they even care about the surface of the Earth?
Yeah, exactly. Just go
Just
where the real energy's at. Go to
go
the
to Jupiter.
sun. Go to yeah. Go to the black hole, the center, and then the largest black hole, center of the galaxy. That's probably where all the civilizations are hanging out. Like, you know how have you
Oh, that might be true. This whole thing about
Mm.
the physics just breaks at the singularity, at
Yeah.
the gravitational singularity. Maybe that's just we just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we just got to get there,
Mm,
right? So
yeah.
make sure we get past this great filter that people are thinking is still ahead of us. Because, yeah.
Well, I think that is going to be a huge problem because, unlike with the previous, like, we barely scraped by with this nuclear proliferation, blah blah
Mm,
blah.
mm,
Almost came to the brink a few times.
mm.
Cuban Missile Crisis,
Those nuclear bombs are
etc.
still run on floppy disk, by the way. Some of them before a certain, like, yeah.
Oh gosh, don't say that. Well, I mean the nuclear warheads in, say, let's just get off the nuclear topic,
Well, we just
or should
we're
we?
buying what $600 billion of nuclear subs, aren't we? So I think
Oh, is it
it's
360, 400 and
yeah,
is it
sorry,
600?
$360 billion. Yeah,
Jeepers.
I mean, like, can't not talk about it because that's like, what have we ever spent $360 billion on? Like 380, I think it was something like that.
Um, we spend what, 80 billion, 100 billion a year on, maybe it's way more now because this is a really old stat. That's on
Mm.
unemployment benefits a year.
Yeah, I mean, so if you spread that $380 billion over 10 years, which is what the project cycle is, I think. I mean, that's so if you can pay half of
All the
Centrelink as
unemployment.
a UBI to everyone. Like,
Oh my.
so yeah, so if nuclear is safe for subs, but it's not safe to use as, energy production in Australia, like that's just complete,
Yeah.
logic fail. Like, I think this is probably good that that this is happening because then we can open the doors to nuclear energy in Australia and get
Yeah, I
cheaper
think
energy and also safer energy because Australia is not, on a land fault or anything like that.
we've actually got one of the best
Mm.
geographical situations
Yeah,
for storing nuclear waste.
that's right.
For some reason, um, I can't remember which project, but I know
Mm.
that the rainfall in Australia,
Mm.
whenever it rains,
Mm.
the rain always just leaves the continent,
Mm.
and that's why it's so dry.
Yeah.
And so the center of the continent
Mm.
is so dry. It takes the groundwater 20,000 years to move from
Ah,
the center to the
less
coast.
risk of, yeah, that contamination getting out. Yeah.
So it takes 20, and by 20,000 years, I think it's almost,
Yeah, exactly.
it's
We'll be
fine.
in, the center of the universe, or if there is one. That's right, there is no center of the universe. But yeah, like, yeah, I mean, I was at Ansto a month ago, in Lucas Heights. So yeah,
Oh, the
where
old,
they do
yeah,
the
yeah.
nuclear research. So
Mm-hmm.
they have a reactor. Like, it's not a, you know,
Old one, yeah.
yeah, it's not like a nuclear power plant or
It's a
anything like
research
that.
reactor,
Yeah, it
right?
only has enough energy to, beam some
Mm.
protons down a tube and, essentially do nuclear science. So if you can create these radioactive,
Isotopes, yeah.
yeah, isotopes like
Mm.
molly, you inject that into, say, the human
Cancer
body, you'll be able
patients.
to, yeah, essentially follow it and remove
Okay.
cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's some cool stuff, and you need that localized. So, talking about redundancies, and you need to have local production of these sort of technologies because of the radioactive decay and the half life. You need to have local production of this stuff for cancer treatment, and so we don't want to import it from another country because by the time it gets here, it'll be like, yeah, worth a lot less than it would
Yeah.
have been if we just made it. But yeah, I mean, I think AI is going to accelerate this nuclear development as well. Make them safer, and then on the roadmap towards, nuclear fusion. So fission is, pretty much
Fusion's
sorted.
going to be
Fusion
so
is
big.
going to be next.
Mm.
But some people are arguing, okay, what do we even need fusion? We already got the sun. Just, take that, extract the energy from it.
Well, we need to do nuclear fusion because it's there to be done.
Mm.
And if we don't do it, someone else will do it and reap all the
Yeah,
benefits.
that's right.
I mean, it's
It'll get cracked.
surprising that. Sorry, okay. I'll say this real quick.
Mm.
With nuclear fusion, it's like when we were going to the moon
Mm.
in the 50s,
Mm.
the 60s. So you'd ask someone, if you were to ask someone back then, oh, can we go to the moon?
Mm.
They were like, maybe not.
Yeah, it
Probably
doesn't
not.
make economic sense at the time,
Yeah,
right?
and and there was a whole protest on why we're sending people up there, etc.
Mm.
But then, I mean, there was obviously a space race
Mm.
between the Soviet Union and the US.
Mm.
But the thing was everything was there already.
Yeah.
Like you had the mathematics,
Mm.
you had the the propulsion system, you had the spacesuits. It's just stringing it all together.
Mm.
So if you ask people, do we have the technology? Yes. Do we know the math? Yes. Do we have the space, the propulsion? Yes. Do we know how to keep someone alive in the vacuum of space? Yes.
Mm.
So can we put a person on the moon? No.
Yeah, because the
But we,
tokamak technology is here, is already there. It's just
that's
about
that's right.
refining it, right? So I
So
don't know. Yeah,
we're in the same situation with nuclear
exactly.
fusion.
Yeah.
We've got the math,
Mm.
we have tech, we've
Mm.
done it.
Mm.
It's just stringing it all together for a net positive output.
Yeah, I think the only difference between that is that there's so much benefit once you get to the moon and like being able to achieve that, set up a base, all of that to be able to productionize space, and which we're doing now, right, with Starlink and all those offerings. With fusion, it's like the economics of it. People are challenging that whether it makes sense to then try to extract energy from that fusion power economically, like setting up the whole facility to then extract it, because
Right.
then you can just extract it cheaper through solar, through the sun, right? So what it will make sense is when we go interstellar, right? So we
Yes.
need those fusion reactors to power where there is no sun, right? Where there is
Yeah.
no light to be able to, do that. So I think, yeah, it's going to be extraordinary. That's our next moonshot, right? The fusion powered interstellar travel for us to achieve, close to light speed.
It's so.
But we won't be traveling, right? The AI is going to be traveling. We'll be uploaded. We'll be on a
We
beam
might
of
be
light.
frozen, or maybe we won't even be like this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we'll deploy our Tesla bot avatars to those distant planets so we can actually, pretend we're actually embodied. But we'll beam it through our consciousness into those robots, and then, have a telepresence anywhere we want. Or we could just stay in the metaverse. Like we could just create digital replicas of everything and it'll feel the same and can't tell the difference.
I think if we do end up with a metaverse,
Hmm.
everyone will be able to fly everywhere.
Yeah,
That's just the first thing, and everyone will have telekinesis.
exactly. I mean,
As,
why would you try to like limit yourself to this with this physical, the physics of this universe?
Mm.
You can create your own physics,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you can't tell the difference.
And then we'll really have the Matrix.
Yeah, I mean, what would you choose, Roy? Like, red pill, blue pill.
Well, yeah, my mind's a bit fried at the moment. I can't think.
Yeah, you definitely need the aspirin. Yeah, you need like
Yeah.
the white pill.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah,
Yeah.
things are moving fast. Shit's gonna get weird. We'll do this every week because I
Yeah.
feel like that's the pace of AGI at the rate.
Yeah, I think
we're
that this
going.
needs to be documented
Yeah.
because to me, this is like out of all the times in human history to be born,
Mm.
we are born now
Mm.
and we will witness this pretty much.
Like,
And not only that,
yeah.
but we've been alive
Yeah.
so that from when we were born,
Mm.
we've seen just so much change. I think we've seen more change than any other generation
Yeah, we're
in
the luckiest
history.
generation in
We are
history.
the luckiest
Yeah,
generation in human history because
yeah,
we went from records,
yeah,
analog records and radio
yeah,
when we were playing in the sandpit to CDs
yeah,
to Blu-ray to internet to this.
yeah. And we lived in an era where people actually had babies, right? You know, like we could, if we missed this timeline, we would have like not even been born, right? Like,
Oh
'cause
yeah.
who needs to have biological births when you just have more AIs? But
It
like,
isn't this.
like it makes you question, like, is this all coincidence? Is it
Mm,
because out of all the possibilities, right, we're in
yeah.
this timeline, and I think this is what a lot of people are questioning whether we're in a simulation or not. Because are we just replaying the same journey for our entertainment? Like, are we just replaying this moment in history
Ah,
when the singularity happens, and it's almost as if a history lesson? We're visiting some sort of distant past when humanity was still in that cradle of, you know, the knee of that curve, or taken off.
and we are at the knee right now, aren't we? My gosh.
But you're right. Yeah, we're the luckiest generation, living the most luckiest time in human history. No matter what they say out there, a lot of people are so pessimistic about the future, and they see the downsides and the negativity. They just want to get their bills paid. So, it's not something that they look forward to, the future. And it's up to us really to remind them that, the world's great. I think there's so much opportunity that we can apply these technologies to, and every day that we wake up, we should be excited about what's to come next. It feels like a really addictive TV show, like an HBO Max high quality episodic series.
Be honest, I actually thought about that too.
Yeah.
It's like real life has become real interesting.
Yeah,
Like,
hopefully it doesn't. It's not like The Last of Us, right? It's not. We're all going in cordyceps.